Okay. Hi, team. Miss Vaughn here to read you chapter 27 of Beloved. We just finished reading chapter 26, and at the very end of that chapter, we have these cycles that are repeating themselves. We talked about it in a lot of depth with Stamp Paid and how he was trying to break cycles. And then Setha repeated a cycle here because she saw Edward Bodwin driving down Bluestone Road, which is where 124 is. She makes this assumption that because Edward Bodwin is a white man in his carriage, he's coming down the road to take her daughter. And so her instinct is the same, it uses the same exact language as it did in the Four Horsemen chapter. So it is, I don't know why that popped up like that. There's the language of the hummingbird sticking its needle beak into her hair and giving her the impulse to say no, no, no. And then she flies. But this time, okay, so she like one could maybe argue that she's breaking the cycle because she's making the decision to kill the person who's coming for her children rather than killing her children. But she's really breaking the cycle because the women stop her in this instance. So they prevent her from killing Bodwin. And then imagine this chapter like a couple of days later. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I am going to read some parts to you. We're going to hear what has happened to Denver, and we're also going to hear what has happened to Beloved. And then we're going to hear a little bit of Paul D trying to remedy his relationship with Setha. Okay. I'm not going to read the very first part of the chapter. If we can actually start on page 311. In the middle-ish of the page, it says, used to be voices all around that place. Quiet now, Stamp said. I've been past it a few times and I can't hear a thing. Chasten, I reckon, because Mr. Bodwin say he's selling it soon as he can. That the name of the one she tried to stab? That one? Yep. His sister say it's full of trouble. Told Janie she was going to get rid of it. And him? Asked Paul D. Janie say he against it, but won't stop it. Who do they think want a house out there? Anybody got the money don't want to live out there. Beats me, Stamp answered. It'll be a spell, I guess, before it get took off his hands. He don't plan on taking her to the law? Don't seem like it. Janie say all he wants to know is who is the naked black woman standing on the porch. He was looking at her so hard he didn't notice what Setha was up to. All he saw was some colored women fighting. He thought Setha was the one after them, Janie say. Janie tell him any different? No. She says she's so glad her boss ain't dead. If Ella hadn't clipped her, she say she would have. Scared to death have that woman kill her boss. She and Denver be looking for a job. Who'd Janie tell her the naked woman was? Okay, so wait. When it says if Ella hadn't clipped her, when Seth is running off of the porch down onto the road to stab Bodwin, Ella punches her to stop her from killing Bodwin. Okay. Let's keep reading on this page. You believe they saw it? Well, they saw something. I trust Ella anyway, and she says she looked it in the eye. It was standing right next to Setha, but the way they describe it don't seem like it was the girl I saw in there. The girl I saw was narrow. This one was big. They say they was holding hands, and Setha looked like a little girl beside it. Little girl with an ice pick. How close she get to him? Right up on him, they say, before Denver and them grabbed her, and Ella put her fist in her jaw. He got to know Setha was after him. He got to go. Maybe, I don't know. If he did think it, I reckon he decided not to. That'd be just like him, too. He's somebody never turned us down. Steady as a rock. I tell you something, if she had got to him, it'd be the worst thing in the world for us. You know, don't you? He's the main one kept Setha from the gallows in the first place. Yeah, damn, that woman is crazy. Crazy. Yeah, well, ain't we all? Okay, so there's some irony here because Setha tries to kill Bodwin. When Setha killed Baby Beloved, Bodwin was instrumental in making sure that Setha was not executed for her crime. And remember, in the case of the real Margaret Garner, Margaret Garner was put on trial for not murder, but for stolen property. Okay, page 213 at the top, first line of dialogue. Every time a white man come to the door, she got to kill somebody. For all she know, the man could be coming for rent. Okay, so they're making some jokes about this pattern that she has of how she reacts when white men come to 124. Denver is going to get a job. She's going to go be her independent self, and she's going to separate herself from her mom. Paul D is going to be thinking about how he's been really mobile his whole life. And so now it's his time to kind of settle down with Setha. Okay, page 318 in the middle of the page, if we can start there. Now his coming is the reverse of his going. So he's going to come back into 124 to repair things with Setha. First, he stands in the back near the cold house, amazed by the riot of late summer flowers where vegetables should be growing. Sweet William, morning glory, chrysanthemums. The odd placement of cans jammed with the rotting stems of things, the blossoms shriveled like sores. Dead ivy twines around bean poles and door handles. Faded newspaper pictures are nailed to the outhouse and on trees. A rope too short for anything but skip jumping lies discarded near a washtub. The jars and jars of dead lightning bugs, like a child's house, the house of a very tall child. He walks to the front door and opens it. It is stone quiet. In the place where once a shaft of sad red light had bathed him, locking him where he stood, is nothing. A bleak and minus nothing, more like absence, but an absence he had to get through with the same determination he had when he trusted Setha and stepped through the pulsing light. He glances quickly at the lightning white stairs. The entire railing is wound with ribbons, bows, bouquets. Paul D steps inside. The outdoor breeze brings with him, stirs the ribbons. Carefully, not quite in a hurry, but losing no time, he climbs the luminous stairs. He enters Setha's room. She isn't there, and the bed looks so small he wonders how the two of them had lain there. It has no sheets, and because the roof windows do not open, the room is stifling. Brightly colored clothes lie on the floor. Hanging from a wall peg is the dress Beloved wore when he first saw her. A pair of ice skates nestles in a basket in the corner. He turns his eyes back to the bed and keeps looking at it. It seems to him a place he is not. With an effort that makes him sweat, he forces a picture of himself lying there, and when he sees it, it lifts his spirit. He goes to the other bedroom. Denver's is as neat as the other's is messy, but still no Setha. Maybe she has gone back to work, gotten better in the days since he talked to Denver. He goes back down the stairs, leaving the image of himself firmly in place on the narrow bed. At the kitchen table, he sits down. Something is missing from 124, something larger than the people who lived there, something more than Beloved or the red light. He can't put his finger on it, but it seems for a moment that just beyond his knowing is the glare of an outside thing that embraces while it accuses. Okay, so he's gonna come back and find Setha, and it's interesting because they have a very similar conversation to the conversation that they have before, if you go back and read that chapter. And then if we can look at page 321, Setha is going to be really sad because her children have left her, and so she feels like the best parts of her are now gone. And we know that Setha loves her children. She's very dedicated to them. So them being gone is almost like a part of hers being gone. And at 321, at the bottom of the page, he tells her, "Aw, girl, don't cry. She was my best thing," Setha says in response. Paul D sits down in the rocking chair and examines the quilt patched on carnival colors. His hands are limp between his knees. There are too many things to feel about this woman. His head hurts. Suddenly he remembers 60 trying to describe what he felt about the 30-mile woman. And I love this description so much. "She's a friend of my mind. She'd gather me, man, the pieces I am. She'd gather them and give them back to me in all the right order. It's good, when you got a woman who is a friend of your mind." He is staring at the quilt, but he is thinking about her wrought iron back, the delicious mouth still puffy from the corner from Ella's fist, the mean black eyes, the wet dress steaming before the fire, her tenderness about his neck jewelry, its 3 wands like attentive baby rattlers curving 2 feet into the air. How she never mentioned or looked at it, so he did not have to feel the shame of being collared like a beast. Only this woman, Setha, could have left him his manhood like that. He wants to put his story next to hers. "Setha," he says, "me and you, we got more yesterday than anybody. We need some kind of tomorrow." He leans over and takes her hand. With the other, he touches her face. "You, your best thing, Setha. You are." His holding fingers are holding hers. Me? Me? Okay, so he wants to build a future with Setha when he says that response of "me and you, we got more yesterday than anybody. We need some kind of tomorrow." And he's trying to remind Setha that even though Setha thinks that her children are her best thing, actually she is her best thing. Which, I mean, I know that we know that these characters have a lot of emotional stuff that they have to be able to work through, and that like we know as humans that being able to change doesn't happen overnight. So even them being able to come back together and start to like come to some sort of resolution or understanding, or maybe some sort of development, is a good sign. And I'm going to say this in a future video, but I want to say it here. Some people are very dissatisfied with the way that the book ends. But if you thought that Toni Morrison was just going to turn everything around in the book to have this picture perfect happy ending, then you haven't been paying attention to the way that she writes the book. So I think that it's a very fitting ending for everything that happens throughout. And it doesn't leave us with this like saccharine or like sugary sweet ending, but it leaves us with this feeling of like, okay, these characters have worked through their past and they're working towards the future. And that leads us into the very last chapter of the book with like, what do we have to do as a reader to also work through our own personal past, but then also our collective past as a society as we move forward into our future too. All right. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye-bye.